Do you ever feel like your words just sort of disappear into thin air? Or maybe you have something really important on your chest that you've always wanted to say, but actually getting it across feels like trying to catch the wind. You might see other people command a room, inspire action. Maybe they even deliver an amazing speech that launches a new capital fund or a political career. And you find yourself thinking, wow, how do they do that? Well, here's something I've learned that's really fundamental. Every single word you speak is actually building your reality. It's opening doors for you, or sometimes, if we're not careful, it might even be accidentally closing them. Communication isn't just about trading information back and forth with our fellow human beings. It's the key to unlock almost everything you want to achieve in life. People sometimes will ask me, why put in the effort to become more articulate or to get really dangerous at public speaking? Think of it like this. Your words are similar to a flashlight in a dark room. They have the power to show people exactly where to look and to guide their understanding. In fact, they shape your own steps too. Words have incredible power. Way back, the ancient Greeks had a special word for this. They called it logos. It represents the clarity, the reason, and the structure that makes sense of our entire world. Aristotle knew it by heart. He didn't just have brilliant ideas. He used clear, structured speech to teach leaders and influence history. He understood that mastering your words was a pathway to shaping your world. Now, here's a truth that often gets overlooked. When you learn to speak with that kind of clarity and purpose, you gain this incredible ability to connect with people, to inspire them, and yes, to persuade them effectively. It's how possibilities start turning into actual realities. But then there's often a silent hurdle, something subtle that can trip most people up. It undermines their impact without them even realizing it. So today, we're going to uncover what that hurdle is. And more importantly, we're going to explore the 6 foundational keys used by truly effective communicators. These are people who seem to effortlessly hold attention and make a real difference every time they open up their mouths. This isn't about generic tips, though. You've heard all that a million times. This is about understanding the mechanics of impactful speech, so get ready. Your voice is about to become a tool, and you can use it like a sword with incredible skill. So what is this overlooked hurdle we spoke about earlier? Well, it often starts with where we tend to put our focus. We spend so much time and effort on how we look, right? Our clothes, our hair, our posture. That's called a visual image. And yes, absolutely, no one denies that looking put together creates first impressions. I mean, good posture can suggest confidence in someone. A neat appearance might signal professionalism, and a friendly smile definitely will help people feel comfortable and put them at ease. These visual cues create that crucial first impression. But then comes the moment where they hear you start to speak, and instantly your vocal image, the actual sound and delivery of your voice, that takes center stage, and it overpowers the visual image. And here's the really important part. The vocal delivery heavily influences whether people truly believe those initial visual impressions that they had at the onset. Do they believe you're credible and honest? Do they think you're competent or trustworthy? Your voice plays a massive role in cementing those beliefs in their head. Think about it honestly for a second. How much time have you consciously practiced improving the sound and delivery of your voice? I mean, if you're like most people, probably not that much, right? It often feels like the one part of us that we lose control over, like a kite without a string. But that's precisely where the opportunity lies. Today, that's going to change for all of you. We're going to dive into how we tune up the most powerful instrument you have hiding right inside of you. Now, maybe as I say this, a little voice in your head is already kicking back and whispering, but trying to change how I speak, won't that just sound weird or inauthentic? No, that's a super common feeling though. So let's tackle it head on. In ancient Rome, the most celebrated speaker was Cicero. He wasn't born, though, with this incredible stage presence. History tells us he was actually quite nervous when he started out. But he didn't just accept that fate. He studied other speakers, and he practiced constantly. Cicero himself believed that great speakers were not born. They are made, he thought, through dedication and hard work, and his effort absolutely transformed him. This just shows us that improving your speech isn't just possible, it's achievable through relentless practice. So remember this key idea. Speaking is mostly a set of learned behaviors. It's not hereditary. And just like how you can learn to stand straighter or learn a new dance move, you can absolutely learn new vocal behaviors to speak more effectively. Think about actors, Academy Award winners, learning different accents. They're fundamentally changing their vocal habits for a role. Now, you don't need a whole new accent, but you can refine the habits that create your current sound. Your voice is not set in stone. Think of it less concrete and more like clay that you can shape and mold. Or even better, think of your voice as a musical instrument. You wouldn't just randomly bang piano keys in disorder, and you wouldn't expect to create a beautiful symphony if you did, right? You learn the keys, the techniques, and the rhythm. Now, it's exactly the same with your voice. So what about that inauthentic feeling we discussed earlier? When you try something new, like speaking a bit louder or slower or with more vocal expression. It often pops up simply because you're stepping outside of your comfort zone in your usual routine. So the key takeaway here is to reframe this feeling. If it feels unfamiliar, think about that piano analogy we used earlier. I mean, a piano has 88 keys. Most of us in our everyday speaking, we tend to use only a small handful of keys right there in the middle. So when you encourage or try to hit a higher note, like adding more pitch variation or maybe a lower note for more gravitas, of course it's going to feel weird at first. You simply have never played those keys before. But are those keys inauthentic? No, they're part of the piano's full potential. And your voice is full potential too. That initial discomfort, it's actually a good sign. It means you're exploring new territory, stretching your abilities, and embracing that initial feeling of unfamiliarity. That's going to be what you need to be the catalyst to get you to mastering your voice. Okay, so let's get practical and bring it back home to earth. How do you actually start playing your vocal instrument well? We're going to explore 6 foundational keys to your voice. If you get these right and you work on them consistently, you're going to notice an immediate difference in your impact and how people respond to you when you speak. So key number 1 is to clear the clutter. This is eliminating all the filler words. Think about the speakers that you truly respect. Maybe someone like Cato the Elder in ancient Rome, known for being incredibly deliberate and concise with his words, like a sniper. He didn't just waste words or fill air with unnecessary noise. When he spoke, people leaned in because every word felt chosen and purposeful. That disciplined use of silence was actually part of his power. Now, what undermines that kind of power today, especially on social media? It's filler words. Those are those little verbal bridges, such as like, you know, basically, honestly, maybe, literally. See, we hear these things all the time and they creep in and they act like static on a communication line. So why are filler words a problem? Well, they don't just make you sound hesitant or unsure. They actually distract your audience. They can even chip away at your credibility, making it seem like you don't know your stuff, even if you do. So how do you clean up these pesky words? It takes conscious effort. But here's a few simple tactics that you can try. First, pause every time a filler word comes in your mind. The absolute best replacement for a filler word is silence. Say nothing. And then when you feel that or literally or like about to jump out, train yourself to take a breath and put a period there mentally. Just take a quiet breath. Take a few seconds to gather your thoughts. And it actually makes you sound more thoughtful, more articulate. Second, you can try the mental period. When you practice speaking, just mentally put a period or a pause in your head. This works wonders right at the end of a thought or a sentence. It helps you build awareness of natural stopping points, and it discourages you from rambling or rushing right into the next thought you have with a filler word that connects all these words together. And the third point is notice these filler words loudly. This might sound strange, but sometimes when you're practicing alone, try speaking with a little more bravado, a little more tone than you normally would. This can actually make those filler words pop out more, making it easier for you to catch yourself using them. And lastly, embrace brief silence. Start getting comfortable with short moments of quiet in your speech. It's not awkward space, it's power. It gives your listeners that crucial moment to absorb what you just said, and it shows you're confident enough not to feel like you have to fill every single millisecond with that static noise. When you clean up filler words, it's going to be one of the quickest ways to instantly sound more polished, clear, and authoritative and powerful. So key number 2 is control your speed. Have you ever found your mind wandering while listening to someone who talks so incredibly slow? It's painful, right? Or maybe you felt totally overwhelmed trying to keep up with someone who's racing through their points. And if you hear someone like that who's breaking speed records, both of these extremes make it hard for listeners to stay connected to the message. But here's a real common mistake. Even good speakers will sometimes stick to one speed. And even if it's a generally pleasant speed, if it never changes, it becomes monotonous to the audience. Think of it like a long, straight highway that you're driving in with your car. If there's absolutely no change in the scenery, your audience's attention is going to drift off eventually. So why does varying your speed matter so much? It's like you're controlling the zoom lens for your audience's attention. Winston Churchill was a master of this. During World War II, his speeches were incredibly powerful, not just because of the words themselves, but because of how he delivered them. When he famously said those immortal lines, "We shall fight in the beaches, we shall never surrender," the way he deliberately slowed down on those key phrases created immense gravity and resolve. His pacing made the words absolutely unforgettable. So here's a straightforward way that you can use speed strategically. If you're speaking for your big points, when you get to the really crucial part of the message or the takeaway, slow down, make it noticeable. This signals importance and it gives weight to your words. This allows your message to really land and sink in fully. Now, for supporting details in your message, for example, if you're giving examples, maybe tell a quick story and just transition between ideas, and then you can naturally speed up just a little bit. This contrast in pace creates a natural rhythm like the waves of the sea, and it keeps your listeners engaged, helping them follow along, and it makes sure that they recognize your most important messages as they stand out. So don't let your best ideas get lost because your delivery is monotone. Key number 3, adjust your volume. Your volume level sends immediate subconscious signals. It signals whether you're confident about what you believe and what you're saying. If you speak too softly, it often comes off as timid and unsure, maybe even untrustworthy. But if you're just loud all the time, it isn't the answer either. That can become grating and obnoxious. Think about Demosthenes again, the famous Greek speaker. The story goes that he had a quiet voice initially, but to strengthen it, he practiced projecting over the roar of the ocean's waves. He understood that having sufficient volume was essential just to be heard and to command the attention of his audience. But true vocal power isn't just about being loud enough. It comes from using volume dynamically, like controlling the volume knob on a stereo. So I want you to think about these adjustments. Try leaning in quietly. And sometimes for a moment of shared connection or suspense, emphasize a particular sensitive point and intentionally lower your volume when you do it. Draw your listeners in closer. Then project with energy when you're making a key declaration or sharing exciting news. This will call people to action consciously. And when you're increasing your volume, it'll convey the passion and the energy that perhaps even your words are not doing. It's the shift between both of these levels, the contrast, that really creates impact and holds your audience's attention. So don't get stuck at one volume. Learn to move purposely between that quiet intensity and that energetic projection. Key number 4, find your melody or your pitch variation. Think about your voice for a second. Is it more like a flat, monotone line, or does it have some natural ups and downs like a flowing melody? A voice that's stuck on just one note is an instant tune-out signal for your audience. It sounds robotic and uninterested. Engaging conversation naturally has pitch variation, has highs and lows that add color and interest. I mean, sit at any coffee shop in Europe and you'll hear the natural conversations happening around you and how melodious they are. Or think about Shakespeare's actors. They didn't just recite famous lines, they performed them with vocal tonation. The rise and fall in their pitch helped convey the deep emotion and meaning. Think about famous lines like "to be or not to be," how it resonated across the centuries. So if you feel like your voice is naturally a bit monotone or flat, how do you develop more of that engaging tonality? A fantastic exercise you can try at home, and I will warn you, it sounds a little bit silly, but it works. It's similar to a siren. So try spending just a few minutes a day doing this. Grab a piece of text that you want to read or speak out loud. It could be an article, a book, or anything. And start in the lower part of your vocal range, and then slowly glide your voice up all the way up until the highest note that you can comfortably reach. Now, don't strain, just explore the upper end, then smoothly glide all the way back down to your lowest comfortable note. And keep reading the text, letting your voice flow up and down, similar to a siren. Now, it will feel weird at first. Remember, if it's unfamiliar, that means you're exploring new territory. But this exercise, physically, it warms up and expands your usable pitch range. Over time, as you do this, your normal speaking voice will naturally start to incorporate more of these melodic variations without you having to consciously think about performing at any time. You'll just sound more engaging when you do it. So key number 5 is use your face. This is your emotional tonality. How do you make your audience truly feel your message, not just logically understanding it? The surprising key is right here. It's in your face. Your facial expressions are similar to a remote control for the emotion in your voice. I mean, think about Martin Luther King Jr. when he said the "I have a dream" speech. His voice carried such incredible power, right? But when you watch videos of it, it wasn't just because it was loud. It was filled with palpable emotion, conviction, and a deep yearning. You could hear the dream in his voice, partly because you could almost see the conviction on his face. You could feel the authenticity in his delivery. So let's try a quick experiment right now. Put on the most bored, neutral, expressionless face that you can manage, okay? Now try to say with the blank face that this is incredibly exciting. It just falls out flat, right? The words say one thing, but your face says another. Now, try the opposite. Light up your face with a genuine smile. Maybe your eyes are a bit wider than they usually are, or your eyebrows are slightly raised with enthusiasm. Now say, "This is incredibly exciting." See the huge difference? The emotion comes through naturally in that facial expression. So here's the challenge. When speakers get nervous, often the first thing they do is freeze up their face. I'm talking about physically, not just mentally. They might say they're passionate, but if their face is a blank mask, their vocal tonality will sound flat and unconvincing as well. The audience will feel the disconnect. So the fix is simple. It does take some conscious practice though. Let your face reflect the emotion that you intend to convey. If you're talking about something positive, allow a natural and genuine smile. If you're expressing concern or seriousness, let your brow furrow slightly, turn your head a little to the side, or focus your eyes. And if you're sharing something exciting, let that energy animate your entire face. When your facial expressions are aligned or congruent with your message, your vocal tonality becomes natural, authentic, and much more impactful. Here's key number 6. Embrace the pause. Silence is golden, as the famous axiom goes. And for so many speakers, it feels like dead air or something awkward that they try to avoid at all costs. We rush to fill every tiny gap. For truly effective communicators, though, the strategic pause is actually one of the most valuable tools. Julius Caesar knew this. When he addressed his legions before a battle, he had calculated moments of silence, and he reportedly used these silences between key commands. They built anticipation and they commanded attention. This underscored the weight of Julius Caesar's words. So, why is pausing so incredibly powerful? Three main reasons. First, it allows absorption. It gives your listeners that crucial beat, that moment to actually process what you just said. I mean, important ideas or complex thoughts, they need a little space to land and sink in. Second, it eliminates fillers, as we talked about earlier. The pause is the most perfect substitute for like, and all those verbal crutches. Using pauses instead will turn your fillers into something that sounds much more composed, more thoughtful, and more articulate. And lastly, it signals confidence. Being comfortable with silence actually projects authority. It shows you're in control of the pace. You're confident in your message, and you believe your words are significant and worth considering or pausing. Rushing signals anxiety. Pausing signals power. So do not fear the pauses. Start practicing by inserting an intentional moment of silence after you make a key point. It's not dead air, it's thinking time. It's impact time, and it shows your power. Okay, now you have the 6 foundational keys. Knowing them is the first step, but really integrating them, making them a natural part of how you speak, that's where the real transformation happens. So how do you do that? The single most effective method that I know is disciplined self-assessment. It's just that pull out the iPhone and record and review method. Think about Abraham Lincoln. Of course, he didn't have iPhones, but when he was preparing for the Gettysburg Address, he didn't just jot it down once and see how it went. No, he reportedly wrote it, read it aloud, and he would find ways to hear it back, how it sounded. And then he would tweak it and refine it endlessly. Every single word carried the perfect weight and clarity. It was completely intentional. That intense review process created a masterpiece. Now, yes, listening to yourself on a recording can feel uncomfortable at first. And we talked about why. Your recorded voice sounds so much different than the voice you hear inside your head. But if you avoid listening to yourself, it's like trying to improve your tennis serve without ever serving or watching a replay. You absolutely need that objective feedback to see what's really happening. And trust me, the more you listen, the less strange it becomes. You start to hear yourself more clearly, and you identify exactly where you can improve. So let's walk through that step one more time, just to make sure we've all got it. The first step, though, is to record yourself. Grab your phone, and video is great because you get the visual feedback too. And then just stand up comfortably, somewhere quiet, and hit record. Now, remember, the crucial part is to speak spontaneously for about 5 minutes. You can set a timer. It's better not to use a script. Just talk naturally. Discuss your day. Explain something you know really well. Answer some random question. We need you to capture your real everyday speaking habits. And then when the recording's done, the next step is put it away. Don't watch it right there. Wait a full 24 hours or even a few days. This is key because if you watch it immediately, it will lead to harsh self-criticism that's often unproductive. But if you wait, you get that little bit of emotional distance that you need to review it objectively. All right, if 24 hours goes by or a few days or a few weeks, now what you're going to do is you're going to listen to it in 3 distinctive audits. First audit is the audio-only audit. That means turn the volume up on your phone, hit play, and then physically turn your face down so you're not tempted to watch it. Just listen to the audio and focus on the sound. How's your pace? Is it varied or is it monotonous? How about your volume level? Is there melody or is it monotone? And are you using pauses well? Or are there lots of filler words that are creeping in? Listen for the things you like and identify the areas that could be stronger. Write down notes. This is very important. And then once you're done listening, the second audit is visual only. This time, I want you to mute or turn off the sound completely and just watch the video playback. What's your body language like? How's your posture? How are your hand gestures? Are they purposefully adding energy or are they distracting? Is your facial expressions reflecting the emotion that you're seeing when your lips are moving? Or do you look frozen and static? Look for any nervous habits too, like fidgeting, rocketing, or repetitive tapping of your fingers. Note all of your observations. And then on your third audit, I want you to just transcribe the audio. For that, you're going to get your recording and then you're going to write it down, just like Abraham Lincoln did. I want you to write down all the fillers too, if it's in there, all the likes, all the you knows, and then actually read through your handwritten transcript. Now, highlight the filler words. Highlight the pacing and the tonality. This really helps you to see the structure or maybe the lack of structure in your own speaking, and you'll pinpoint all of that pesky verbal clutter that could be confusing other listeners. So if you do these 3 audits, listening, watching, and reading, you're going to have incredibly valuable data on exactly where to practice and where to focus on. Now, this 3-pronged review gives you that leverage that you need to try to fix things, but don't try to fix everything at once. You'll probably have a list of things that you want to work on. Just pick one specific thing from your notes, only one, and then focus on practicing that one thing until you've nailed it and it's subconscious, not conscious. Now, maybe it could be working on varying your volume more. That could be a step-by-step focus, or eliminating all those pesky filler words. Whatever it is, focus on one thing. And then let's quickly revisit a common challenge that we talked about earlier, and that's speaking too slow. If you record and review and you'd like to clarify the speaking slow, here's the root of why that happens. And I want you to really pay attention because most people don't understand the whole psychology behind why it's happening. So first, there's the software side of why it's happening. I'm not talking about your computer. I'm talking about your mental processing. If you find yourself translating from another language into English as you speak, maybe you weren't born in the United States of America or in an English-speaking country, make sure you listen to English podcasts or have more conversations in English. What I want you to do is train your brain to think more directly in English. This alone will help you speed things up mentally, and it'll do so in a natural way. And then after your software or your mental construct, the second is your hardware. That's the physical mechanics of your mouth. If your mouth sometimes feels like it just can't quite keep up with your thoughts, this happens a lot in the tech world. You'll see a lot of famous entrepreneurs and their minds are racing so fast that they can't keep up in their speech. A fantastic way to solve this problem is to practice tongue twisters on the daily. Seriously, find some regular tongue twisters and start saying them slowly and get it right every single time, crisp and clear. Then gradually push yourself to say it faster and faster while maintaining that same clarity. That will build the coordination and muscle memory in your mouth that you need for quicker and clearer speech. All right, moving on from all the technical, boring stuff, let's talk about the big one for so many aspiring speakers, and that's your nerves. I recently read somewhere that people are more afraid of public speaking than they actually are of death. So that fluttery feeling in your stomach, that racing heartbeat, everyone tries to avoid that. But nerves don't have to paralyze you or sabotage your delivery. So here's 3 really powerful mindsets that's going to help you fix all those annoying nerves that you might have. The first mindset, though, is really, and I mean truly, knowing your material. A huge source of speaking anxiety comes from the fear of forgetting. And we all know that feeling of going blank. The absolute best way to combat that fear is deep rehearsal. And I don't mean just glancing over your notes. I mean practicing your talk out loud multiple times, delivering with the exact energy, pacing, and vocal tonality that you intend to use on the day that you speak. Your brain shouldn't be trying to desperately remember every single word. I want you to free it up to actually connect with your audience emotionally. The second is the most powerful mindset shift, in my opinion. Remember some perspective when you're about to speak, and this is going to change everything for you. So what I want you to do, instead of judging every single flaw, is I want you to understand that most people in the audience are primarily focused on their own experiences or what they can learn from you or what's going on in their own lives. Maybe even what they're having for lunch later is what the majority of them are thinking about. They're hoping to get value, yes, but they are not obsessing over your minor imperfections. So try to consciously let go of that intense self-scrutiny. Mark Twain wisely suggested that we tend to worry a lot less about what others think when we realize how infrequently they're actually thinking about us in the first place. So this will help dial down the pressure for you. And the third mindset, which I think is transformative as well, is shifting your focus from trying to perform to thinking about how you can serve the audience. Stop thinking about speaking primarily as some act where you're the one being evaluated or judged. Instead, I want you to think about it mentally as an act of service. Your main goal when you're speaking is to give something valuable to your audience and serve them. Maybe it's useful information, maybe it's inspiration, or a new way of looking at the world. Think about someone like Nelson Mandela speaking. When he was released from prison, his focus wasn't on his performance, but on healing a united and fragmented nation. And when your primary focus shifts from your internal anxieties to actually serving the needs of your listeners, your nervousness will take a back seat. So it becomes less about your fear and much more about the benefit that you're offering them through service. Okay, so what about when you're not speaking on a physical stage, like a keynote, but you're speaking online? So much of our communication now happens virtually. The core principles we've covered, they still apply, but the digital medium is a little bit different. So let's unpack that. Number one, your eye contact needs to be with the camera lens at all times. This is huge online, and so many people miss it. Don't look at the video screen of the people that you're talking to. Instead, look directly at that little dot, the camera lens itself. That's what creates the feeling of direct eye contact for everyone watching you on the other end. Even when you're listening, try to keep your eyes mostly on the lens. It makes a massive difference in creating a connection through the screen. Number two, frame yourself wisely. Don't just be a giant head filling the screen. That can feel a little intense or claustrophobic for people who are watching you. Instead, try positioning yourself so you're visibly from about your mid-torso to your waist up. That creates a more natural social distance feel. And then just as importantly, it's going to let people see your hand gestures, which adds a lot of expression and visual interest on the digital medium. And number three, for online speaking, if you possibly can, is get a stand-up desk. Now, if you can't, I understand, but standing up automatically improves your posture. It helps your breathing, and that helps you project and have more enthusiasm. When you sit, you tend to slouch. It's been said that sitting is worse than smoking for your health. Many top visual presenters make it a point to stand, especially for important calls or presentations. It really does add a vitality and enthusiasm to what you're saying. All right, let's touch on something that can be a bit trickier, but it's really valuable if you can nail it, and that's developing wit. How do you become someone who seems to think fast on their feet and say something clever or funny at the perfect timing? Well, first, it helps to remember that 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. A lot of what seems like instant, spontaneous wit, it actually comes from experience and pattern recognition. The person's likely encountered a similar situation before or heard a similar type of comment, and they're often pulling from a mental library of responses or ideas that they've used previously. That doesn't mean you can't build that library too, though. So here's how you can consciously work on cultivating your own ability or wit. First, you absolutely have to be willing to fail and do a faceplant. Sometimes you'll try a witty remark and it'll just fall flat. You'll get crickets. That's fine. It's part of the learning process. Every stand-up comedian has gone through the trenches and they know this. If you're too afraid to occasionally bomb, you'll never take the risks you need to develop that wit. And when a line doesn't land, learn to recover gracefully. Don't apologize or make a big deal out of it. That will draw more attention to the awkwardness. Just smoothly move on to your next point. If you don't linger on it, the chances are your audience won't either. Then make sure you analyze what happened when something funny does work. Take a moment later to think about why. What made that land? Was it the timing? Was it the surprise or the relatability? And when something doesn't work, analyze that too. Was your timing off? Was it maybe a bit too cliche? Or maybe just didn't land right? It wasn't resonant to the audience. Learn from your hits and your misses. And then finally, collect all that data and adapt. Pay attention to clever lines or humorous structures when you hear others use them successfully. I was recently walking to an elevator in an office and someone commented on how tall I was. I'm about 6'5". And the first thing that came to my mind is I get wet first. So I said, yeah, well, at least if it rains, you get wet a lot later than I do. And it elicited a whole laugh in the elevator. So use your daily life experiences and then think about how you could potentially use or adapt similar ideas to your own style. The more you practice this cycle of trying or analyzing and adapting, then the quicker and more natural your own wit will become over time. Now, with all these techniques we're talking about, controlling your voice, managing your nerves, even now being witty, a really important question often comes up. How do you stay authentic to yourself? How do you avoid just sounding like a performance or a cheap copy of someone else you admire? Here's a key insight that I believe will help you with that. Authenticity isn't about avoiding techniques or structure. It's about mastering the fundamentals or the core skills and then weaving them together with your own unique personality. Think back to a master chef. First, a master chef would learn from the best. And similarly, you might analyze speakers you admire, then understand what they're doing technically. And you can use frameworks like the 6 keys we discussed. Then you practice their techniques, you work on mastering their basics, and maybe through imitation, you build your skill set. But the crucial step is then to blend in your own personality. You keep the techniques that feel natural and effective for you, and you discard the ones that don't resonate. But most importantly, you layer in your own unique stories and anecdotes from life, your wit. That's where true, powerful authenticity comes from. It's the skilled application of technique combined with you. Mark Twain knew this. Mark Twain wasn't great because he perfectly copied the formal writers of his time. He became a writing legend because he blended skilled storytelling techniques with his absolutely unique voice and experiences through his own life. So what if you feel a little bit like you're stuck in an old mold? I don't know, maybe people only see you as the quiet one in your life or the super serious one. It could feel hard to break free from that perception, right? So the most effective way to break an old mold is to step into a new mold, right? Find a place or a group or situation where nobody has any preconceived notions about you, where you have the freedom to experiment and play with different ways of communicating without all that baggage of past expectations or judgments from those of your peers or people you know. A fantastic example of this, as mentioned before, might be taking an improv class. Improv is specifically designed to be a safe, supporting space that gets you out of your head and encourages fun and spontaneity. It'll let you try different communication styles. People will often discover amazing confidence and creativity that they didn't know they have in a new setting like that. Teddy Roosevelt was one of the best at this. You see, Teddy was a shy and sickly kid, but he consciously put himself into new, challenging speaking situations, and he did it to break his mold. Eventually, he became known as a powerful and commanding orator. Sometimes that change of environment, that new school, is exactly the catalyst that you need to unlock a more expressive version of yourself. Maybe you didn't even know you had. Okay, let's bring all of this together now. We've covered a lot of ground today, but you now have a really powerful toolkit, or at least a framework for transforming your communication skills. You understand why your vocal image is just as critical or more so than your visual image. You know the 6 foundational keys to really playing your vocal instrument effectively. And that includes clearing out those filler words, controlling your speed, adjusting your volume, and finding your vocal melody or your tonality, and then also embracing the power of the pause. And you've got the single most effective practice method known to man, which is the record and review cycle, where you're going to listen, watch, and read. And now you have concrete strategies for handling your nerves, for speaking effectively online, and for developing wit or finding your authentic personality in your voice. Remember Benjamin Franklin? He was known for influencing people not just through pure logic, but through clever and well-timed remarks. And he blended his own personality after he learned the techniques. Or JFK, he didn't just rely on natural charisma, although he had it in spades. He rehearsed his iconic lines meticulously to ensure they landed with maximum, although effortless impact. You absolutely have the power to develop these skills too, just like JFK and Benjamin Franklin did. You are not stuck with the voice or the presence that you have right now. Your ability to connect, persuade, and inspire, it's entirely in your control. And yes, it does require conscious effort. It requires practice, and it will require a willingness to embrace that discomfort that comes with growth. But when you step into anything unfamiliar, imagine you're stepping onto any stage, whether it's virtual or physical, and you feel prepared, you feel confident. Imagine your words are landing exactly how you intended, with clear, engaging, and unforgettable remarks. That future isn't just some far-off dream for you. It's the direct result of applying these principles consistently. And it's the direct result of locking in and practicing. So the most important part is to take action. Don't just close this video, forget about it, and move on to the next. Commit to something small right now. What's one skill or strategy from everything that we covered today that you're going to actively focus on practicing this week? Write it down. Maybe it's pausing instead of saying or like. Maybe it's trying that siren technique for 5 minutes a day to work on your tonality. Or maybe it's finally recording yourself for the first time and watching it back. Decide on one thing and then say it in the comments below. You're this close to making it happen, and I believe in you.